Hey everybody, and welcome to another Top 10. Today we're making a Top 10 Best Final Fantasy Games. Yeah, one of the greatest RPG series of all time. This top only includes titles from the main series. Also, please note that this is my personal opinion, don't forget that. So, let's start with number 1. Final Fantasy I, the very first of the series. This is a beautiful historical masterpiece, and even though it's not that good, it still deserves at least a place on my list, mainly because of what it gave to the video game industry, especially the RPG genre. Its creator, Hironobu Sakaguchi, made this game as a last resort in 1987, since he was going to stop making video games, hence the name Final Fantasy. Of course, we all know this was a commercial success and gave Sakaguchi and many others the opportunity to create more beautiful titles such as this. It's a turn-based RPG for the NES, and it has been remade and ported to several other consoles such as the PS1 and the Game Boy Advance. Anyway, good game, but not as much as the other monsters this great franchise brought us for over the years. However, it is good to know that this game that you're seeing right now on screen, even though this is a remake version, was the one that started it all. This is the beginning. Great game. Number 9. Final Fantasy III. Number 9 goes to Final Fantasy III. Yes, the real Final Fantasy III that was made for the Famicom and was not released outside Japan until its release for the Nintendo DS in 2006. Instead, we got a different game with the same title for the Super Nintendo that later turned out to be Final Fantasy VI. But anyway, what you're seeing right now, it's actually the DS version of Final Fantasy III. Wow, this is a beautiful game. The new graphics are just so cool for the system that they made the game look more appealing than it actually is. Yeah, I say this because, well, it's not that good of a game. Really, it's not. Nice story, nice graphics, nice turn-based battle system, but with tons of random encounters and a very repetitive gameplay that doesn't really stand out. In any case, it's still a good game, much better than the others that are not on this list. So if you have a Nintendo DS, this game is a must. Number 8. Final Fantasy X or X for the PlayStation 2. This is a great game, but nothing more. Many have praised this to be one of the best Final Fantasy games of all time, and I respect that opinion, but to me, it's nothing but a decent title for the main series. Made back in 2001, again with a turn-based battle system, this game was a huge commercial success. So huge that it got remade in HD for the PS3, PS4 and PS Vita, along with its horrendous sequel Final Fantasy X2. Ugh, gosh, I don't want to talk about that piece of garbage. But, you know, Final Fantasy X, however, it's pretty decent, like I said. And it was the very first game in the series that featured voice acting. So even if the story is not that good, it still has a very nice gameplay, music and graphics that, if you don't own a PS2, this game is also a must. Great game. Number 7. Final Fantasy V. This is another great game for the series. Nonetheless, and again, we didn't get this version until much later when it got remade for the PS2 along with the following title Final Fantasy VI. As many of the other titles in this series, Final Fantasy V has a good plot, nice music, nice battle system, and an expanded job system that was customization free, something that made the game receive a huge praise. Nevertheless, the game can once again be very, repetitive. But despite that, this game is awesome! The characters are so likable and the story, simple as it may be, compels you to keep playing it no matter its flaws. I highly recommend at least giving this beautiful game a chance, considering not too many people have played it before. I don't understand why. This game is great. It's just as great as any other title in the series. Give it a chance if you can. It's a good game. Number 6. Final Fantasy XII. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. This game is bad. This game is terrible. It shouldn't be on this list. It sucks. Not! No way! Just because it tried a bit different, changing the battle system to an action RPG that still has the action waiting time, by the way, it doesn't mean that the game is bad. To me, it's awesome. Made in 2006 for the PS2, the game plays like an MMORPG, more like a console RPG. But that is precisely what made it so good. The graphics and the music are pretty decent, but the gameplay is, well, a little hard. You will find yourself grinding over and over again in this game, and if we add that the game feels like an open world title, considering the maps are extremely large, you might find it quite tiresome to play sometimes. But, nevertheless, it's a great addition to the series and I really recommend it. Please, forget about the fact that it plays like an online game. That's the point! It's a great game in the series. Okay, number 5. Final Fantasy IV. Oh god. Where to start? Back in 1991, we got this game as Final Fantasy II for the Super Nintendo. But later, it was discovered that this was actually the 4th entrance in the series. Well, it has been remade for everything. PS1, Game Boy Advance, PSP, PC, etc. And it has its own sequel, Final Fantasy IV: The After Years, as a mobile game that was later ported to the PSP. This game is extremely cool, with beautiful music, great characters, and a very unique and original story that enthralls you deeply. Another hard title, by the way, so be warned, but it's totally worth playing. I recommend getting the PSP version, which is the complete and definitive version, but there's also the PC remake with the best graphics for it. Great game. This game has one of the most amazing stories in the entire franchise. Give it a chance if you can. Number 4. Final Fantasy VIII. Final Fantasy VIII takes the 4th place because it's considered to be one of the greatest Final Fantasy games ever made. And I agree. While not as good as some others, it was met with huge commercial success. Made for the PS1 in 1999, the game is 4 discs long. It has great graphics and, in my opinion, one of the best soundtracks in the entire series. The gameplay is very likable, rewarding, addicting at some times, and the story, well, many people don't like it because it's very romantic and cheesy, but I enjoyed it anyway. The only real downfall that I consider this game to have is the battle system. It's such a mess. If you level up, the enemies level up too. So there is really no need to grind in this game, even though it can be really hard sometimes. To make matters worse, the game never tells you that the use of GFs, which are the Eidolons, is not what you must be abusing to win battles. You have to train your characters into learning their own abilities. Well, if you want to know more, check it out on Google to see what I mean. Number 3 goes to Final Fantasy VII. Yeah. It is one of the 3 greatest titles in the series, and I think everybody agrees. A lot of people hate this game, and I really don't understand why. If you want to hate something, hate the Kingdom Hearts series or the Advent Children movie, which are really to blame for the astonishingly criticism that this game had. But if we only focus on this masterpiece for the PS1 made in 1997, We have to admit that it's an extremely well-made RPG. It began a revolution in the video game industry. It made history. The story is awesome. The soundtrack, oh my god, it's the best in the entire series. The gameplay and battle system are really cool. I mean, what's not to like about this game? It may not be the best, at least not on my list, but it's still one of the greatest games of all time. So, please don't hate it for being extremely popular. Instead, lay your hatred in all the other assholes that took advantage of its huge popularity. I strongly recommend playing this game, if only to see for yourself if it's really that good or not. You, my friend, will be the judge. Number 2. Final Fantasy VI. Yes! While many others consider Final Fantasy VI to be much better than the previous title on my list, and also the greatest Final Fantasy ever made, it is all still a matter of perspective. It is subjective, but I strongly agree that this is the very best, even though it's not my favorite. The music and the story of this game are just beyond awesome. It's just so unique and original, so likable and deep, that no other Final Fantasy in this series can truly compete with it. It's a total masterpiece. Now, this is the game we got as Final Fantasy III back in 1992, but was later released with its original title for the PS1 in the anthology with Final Fantasy V. The game offers so much variety in characters that it makes you fall in love with it within the first hours. The gameplay can be a little tedious sometimes, but trust me, you won't give a damn. It's just that good. And now, number 1. Final Fantasy IX. Yes, it is my favorite. Along with Chrono Cross, this game changed my life. It turned me into an RPG addict around 12 years ago. It is a beautiful masterpiece, and it deserves to be number 1 on my list. Made in the year 2000, also for the PS1, Final Fantasy IX failed to be the bad game everyone was expecting it to be. Yeah, turns out it was also a huge success and exceeded everyone's expectations by far. With its wonderfully advanced graphics and its returning to having 4 characters during its turn-based battle systems. The game was developed with a more traditional style of the early Final Fantasy games, and I mean both character-wise and story-wise, which by the way are what's really attractive on this game. They are, along with the soundtrack, what enamored me so quickly, especially since, much like Final Fantasy VI, you spend the first hours of the game playing with different parties in different parts of the world. Oh my god, it's just so beautiful and I really, really love it. I recommend this game to everybody, really. So glad to know this title and having grown up with it. To me, it's the best Final Fantasy game ever made. Probably not to you, but definitely to me. Now, an honorable mention. That goes for Final Fantasy XV. Even though I only played it for a few hours and it didn't convince me, you should give it a try. I will give it a try once I have a PS4. I don't know, it deserves a chance. So, thanks again for watching this video. I hope you like it and don't forget to subscribe.